Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Ghana Gas has shut down completely for the next 10 to 12 days to enable a connection between WAPCo and Ghana Gas. At a press conference by the Ministry of Energy, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Gas, Dr. Benjamin Asante, says it has become necessary due to a shortfall at the Atuaba Gas Plant. We'll soon play excerpt from that press conference, but before then, my colleague Masol Agbagba visited Dumsor, where many residents and business owners endured power cuts over the weekend. The question lingering on the minds of many Ghanaians is whether or not we're back to the days of power cuts in Dumsor. They said the situation is crippling their businesses.
Currently here in Dumsor, where there was power outage sometime yesterday, the power was just restored about 15 minutes ago here. Aside from the inconvenience that it poses to some of the residents here, a lot of business owners also are worried about the intermittent power supply. They say that they have to spend a lot more on buying fuel to power their generators. I've met Kelly here. Kelly works at this barbering shop here. He tells me he has to spend extra on buying fuel just so he can still be in business even when the power is cut.
Yes, from early in the morning to late in the afternoon, light out. And when it happens that way, it means we have to, fuel the generator with petrol, which is extra cost. And then at the long run, you don't get value for your money, because you buy petrol about 50 Ghana cedis, and then you are charging hairdo for like 5 Ghana cedis, and then at the end of the day, you wouldn't get that amount of people coming. And even if you do, then it means that all your money has gone into petrol. It's really affecting business. I get in, and then there are some customers that when they come here, they don't like the blade. Just yesterday, since morning, we're in till about 6 p.m. in the evening. It was so bad. It's so bad. This is not what we were promised. This is not what we were told. Last time I was watching the TV news, it was told that they are giving us just a time frame of 1 week. It's past 1 week now. So why are the electricity Ghana company doing that? It's so bad.
As we're speaking now, the power went off last night, and it is not come up to now. And as I'm speaking to you right now, my phone is off. The room is hot. You can't sleep. The kids can't sleep. Everybody's miserable. So if there's something they have to do, they should do it quick, because it's terrible. The weather is not conducive for this Dumsor. If it's Dumsor too, they should give us a schedule. So we plan our schedule. We know if we have to iron our stuff, you have to do this, you have to freeze your stuff, then you know what is going on. But we don't know nothing. The power just keeps on going on and off and on and off, and it's terrible. So they should let us know what is going on, period.
This place is a very busy place that sometimes when the light is out, we use hand dryer. So sometimes you have to wait, and sometimes to this place is choked. When there is light up, you have to close our shop and go home. It is very bad. Sometimes they have to tell us that there will be a light out so that you'll be aware of what to do. But sometimes they don't tell us. We will be there, then the light is off. It's very, very bad.
Those are some Ghanaians there, obviously very unhappy about the situation. Well, let's listen to the CEO of the Ghana Gas, who's attributing the power outages to a shortfall at the Atuaba Gas Plant.
The outage really is. And let me start really from the first question that someone asked me when I was walking up the stairs. He said, well, what is a shutdown? So a shutdown, essentially, it's taking a facility out of service, to put it simply. And you can have either a planned shutdown. Sometimes it's called an outage. That means the facility is out of service, an outage. And you can have either a planned shutdown or a planned outage, or an unplanned one. A planned one usually for maintenance purposes, and an unplanned one sometimes due to operational upsets, and also sometimes due to willful tampering of facilities or equipment by third parties. So why do we do this is the next question. Why do you have outages? or shutdowns. And in this case, we're talking specifically about the planned outage. A couple of reasons. First, it's really to meet insurance and warranty requirements, and also to preserve the integrity of your facility. And sometimes you just want to also have some modification or addition to an existing system. And that is particularly why we are actually gathered here today. The fact that we are looking at now interconnecting Ghana Gas's pipeline system with that of WAPCo. Certainly, when that happens, more often than not, you would have to shut both systems down. And it's not just a matter of just joining two pieces of pipe. It goes way beyond that. First, your system will have to be depressurized. That means these systems are at very high pressure. You have to depressurize them, and you also have to make them inert. Inert, that will mean that you will have to take all the flammable gas out of the system before you can do any works, hot works of interconnection. And then it's also be looking at equipment and facilities such as your regulator, your metering facilities, expansion, piping that you may have in there will all have to be modified. Heaters, all those will also have to be modified to meet your intended design, if you will. So that is where we are at now. We are looking at actually interconnecting WAPCo's system to Ghana Gas system. And why are we doing that? Essentially, to be able to take some of the surplus or residual gas in the West. You're all aware that we do have a lot of gas in the West, more than what our facilities, generation facilities can actually take. So we intend to take any surplus gas that is resident in the West through that interconnection and also through WAPCO system to the East, where the gas supply is, to describe it generously, very anemic. I think you're all aware of the interruptible nature of the gas supply.
The west and east.
Okay. So east reference is Tema, and west is Takoradi. Those are the two critical load centers in the country in terms of power generation. So we have a lot more gas in the west, which is the Takoradi enclave, and we don't have enough. In fact, the only supply in terms of gas is from the WAPCo, which, as I described, is intermittent. So we intend to bring that surplus gas that we have in the west or Takoradi area to the Tema area. That's essentially where we are at. I think we began some 3 or so weeks ago, and the intent was to have what we call a partial shutdown. So with the partial shutdown, you would be able to still flow some gas whilst you do some works, which you will bring in and then tie in later on. But we are now on the cusp of a total shutdown. A total shutdown means there will be absolutely no gas flowing through those two systems. That means, what will be the impact then? So the impact is simple. You would have to make sure that you have an alternative facility or an alternative fuel source. And I think I would talk more about the alternative fuel source. I think what we together with our partners from VRA and GMPC, to look at fuel that would substitute for the gas that is really coming through Ghana Gas. So I think with that, I will call on some of my colleagues to tell us about where we are at with respect to procuring fuel to substitute.
Benjamin Asante is the CEO of Ghana Gas. They're explaining away why Atuaba has to be shut down. And we'll be having a bit of analysis as we go along momentarily. But the policy think tank, African Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, disagrees. It's rather blaming the situation on financial challenges that government is facing and not technical challenges, as Mr. Asante would have all of us believe. Executive Director Ben Boakye, in an interview with Joy Business, said government is struggling to find money to buy fuel, and also indicated that this is how John Mahama's administration's Dumsor started in 2011 and 2012.
I think there is a power crisis. We have a shortfall about 200 to 300 megawatts off peak and the peak period. So it's a challenge. It could be resolved in the next coming days, but I think it has to be communicated that there is a shortfall and that consumers will have to bear with the system. As we speak, the major generators who could actually come in to absorb the shortfall, they are not producing to capacity. Car Power, for example, is doing only 161 today, when they can actually do 450 megawatts. But they don't have enough fuel. AXA is also having the same challenge. They don't have enough fuel to be able to produce. They are doing the tie-in, so most of the power plants in the west cannot also produce, and they don't have, even though they can switch to light crude oil, they don't have enough fuel to be able to do the switching. So these are challenges that has to be communicated and properly addressed. Yeah, we have enough gas stranded offshore that are not coming in because the infrastructure to transmit the gas to the west, because we have the Car Power, the access here in the east, and the gas is in the west. So they were supposed to do a reverse flow to allow the gas to flow to Tema, and that hasn't been completed yet. That's what they are trying to do now, to allow about 60 million standard cubic feet of gas to come. If that gas could come, Asogli alone could take up the shortfall that we have currently. But because they don't have the gas reversing to the east, the gas is stranded, in the west, and that's where the challenge really is. But hopefully in the next coming weeks, that should be resolved to allow gas to flow back.
That's Asef Benboache there speaking to Joy Business earlier. So what really is happening? The bottom line is that people do not have consistent power flow in their homes, and they are not very excited about that. Israel Lai is head of our energy desk. He joins me now in the studio with some analysis. Israel, it's good to have you.
Yes, sure.
Do you have lights at home?
Yes, we do.
From your, inverter?
No. I mean, there's power, there's electricity in the area.
There's like a buying power in your house.
Yeah.
Very well. So now the issue really has been between the minority says one thing, government tells us another, policy think tanks say the other. Let's look at what the minority has said. Over the years, minority has said that government, over the months that we started discussing this, minority has said that government is owing. It's all about money. They say that the debt issue is what is plunging us into darkness. But when you listen to the press conference that was held today from the CEO, they're saying that this is a purely technical matter that has to be dealt with. Now he talks about a total shutdown and then the impact and goes on and on. What's your own reading from what's happening?
So let's take it from this point. There are a number of factors that you need for when it comes to electricity supply. So you need your fuel, you need your distribution systems, and you need your machines.
Okay.
So you may have your machines, you may have your distribution system. If you don't have your fuel, then you're not going to get your plant working efficiently, and for you to get the electricity. At any point in time, we may have a challenge with one of them. At some point in time, we used to have a challenge with our machines, our generating capacity. Right now, we have enough generating capacity. The challenge we're dealing with right now has to do, as we're speaking, has to do with fuel. And it's because, as you heard Benboache say, we're having challenges with gas. We do have the gas, but how do we get the gas going over or coming onshore to serve the plants that need to run them? And with what is happening at Atuaba, where they're having to shut down the gas processing plant, it means that the gas that they would have supplied into the system is not available, which means we have to rely on, then there are some plants we have in the country, and Mary in particular doesn't use any other fuel apart from gas. So if there's no gas, America can't run. And if America can't run, it means that we're having that shortfall in the system. What they're trying to do with the shutdown of Atuaba is to get gas coming from Nigeria to go through to America, so then America can continue to supply its power. And it's not only America. T1, which is another plant in the Western Enclave, is producing about 100 megawatts as we speak. America is also producing about 150 megawatts. There was a problem on Saturday where Asogli was not generating any power at all. And so there was a shortfall of about 300 megawatts.
Do we understand the source of the problem? What happened at Asogli?
They anticipated that, yes, they were going to shut down, Atuaba was going to shut down, which meant that they had to make arrangements for alternative fuel.
Okay, and Asogli would have been the alternative?
Alternative fuel to come in. So the alternative fuel comes in and it serves all the plants that would need gas, that would need crude oil, LCO, to work. So they have these plants in the Tema enclave. Asogli is one of them. The fuel, I'm told, came in and they were dispatching the fuel into their tanks. It only turns out that the fuel didn't get to them in good time. Another thing with the LCO that they use is when you discharge the LCO, you offload it from the vessel into the tanks. You're supposed to allow it to settle for some time before you actually start using them. So Asogli took delivery all right, but it wasn't delivering the power. And so then there was that shortfall.
Hang on for me, Israel. I need to understand this a bit further, that we can relate that to what the fact that we don't have power in our homes. But we're also joined via Skype by energy analyst and expert Ishmael Ajakumhene, Executive Director of the Kumasi Institute of Technology, KITE. Mr. Ajakumhene, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Right, I've just been having this bit of analysis from our head of energy here, head of energy desk here. I'm wondering what you see as well from your side as to exactly what the problem is. Is it purely an issue of the country not having enough money to buy, you know, the fuel that's needed, or is it more technical, as government would have us believe?
I've been listening to most of the discussions that have been going on. I think it's a combination of everything that everybody has said. The reason why we are in this situation now is, just as your head of energy said, we should have had enough fuel to have run those other plants that didn't need to run on gas. And I'm sorry, unfortunately, I think if the fuel are offloaded now, then we acted a bit too late. We've always known this shutdown. So yes, even if we have money, we probably didn't procure the fuel early enough. The fact that car power is still also going less than its full capacity when we do have a deficit shows that they also probably don't have enough fuel. So it is a combination of technical issue, it's true, and I've said somewhere else that we were becoming too over-reliant on gas because it's cheaper, one, and two, it's also wouldn't be the government that procures the fuel wouldn't have to find the money up, like the case of crude and the heavy fuel oil. You have to look for them, but in the case of gas, Ghana Gas is sitting there defending that they can supply gas. Meanwhile, nobody's paying them. So the issue about gas is that it's cheaper, but it's also because we're able to get the gas without worrying about immediately paying for it. So it is what we're experiencing now is true. There are technical issues.
Okay.
For me, because we had enough time and we probably knew about this shutdown, we've always known that Nigeria gas is not reliable. I think we should move a together we have. I'm not too worried, even though that we seem to have a challenge now. It doesn't look like it's going to be a long-term issue. I suspect over the next couple of weeks. In which case,
what is it that gives you that level of optimism that this should be over in a couple of weeks, as you say?
At the very least, the gas issue, the tie-in will be done, and we have stranded gas in the west where we are paying for them anyway. So it's in our interest to bring it in very quickly. But the fuel that is required, if for any reason the gas is not coming, I believe arrangements have been made for sufficient fuel to make sure that everybody is comfortable, the system is transferred. But I think that whatever it is, there has to be some order in this whole thing. I've heard the PRC demanding some explanation, and it's very, very important that, and to be fair to customers, need to be able to know when the lights are on and when. Obviously, we have problems now. We have generation.
Okay, and you both are talking about the fact that this is a generation problem. You, Mr. Jacumini, think that it is a mixture of both. Let me just bring in the former Power Minister, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, who's joining us live from Parliament, and find out from him what he sees from where he sits, having worked in that office before, and having dealt actually with a Dumsor situation where it was an out Dumsor, where we're all aware of the situation. Dr. Donkor, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. What you see, based on what you know, what you see at the moment, is it a return of Dumsor?
Well, I have always had a problem with what people call Dumsor, and I've always had in terms of definition. Yeah, but what we have today is that we are not generating enough. We are not generating enough because of a planned outage. The interconnection of to the Abuaze plant, to the Atuaba plant was known. It was planned in order to rope in the West African gas pipeline to that. It was known, planned. And therefore, we have no business not having power. The two big power plants in the Western Corridor, TICO and TAPCO, are dual fueled. They fire both on gas or on crude oil. And because this is a planned shutdown for some technical work, the managers of the sector knew that gas will not be flowing from a particular time and for a particular number of days. We ought to have had crude in place to fire the thermal plants so that the consumer will not even have noticed. We don't have crude because we don't have money. It's a finance problem.
We don't have money because we don't have fuel because we don't have money. I'm coming back to you, Israel. I mean, we were having this conversation earlier about whether or not it's a debt issue or it's a purely technical issue. What Dr. Donkor is saying that we knew, and in fact, Mr. Jacumini alludes to the fact that we knew that we would have to shut this plant down anyway. So we have no excuse saying that that is the reason why we're going through power outages.
True.
And at this point, is it is it safe to assume that there's some sort of cover-up by government using this planned shutdown to justify what is happening in our homes?
No, the plan shutdown, they knew about it. They knew that they were going to shut it down.
Yes, but then they could have planned.
But as everybody else has said, yes, if you knew you were going to shut it down, you should have put in place the necessary measures and contingencies so that when you shut down, it doesn't affect everybody else. And indeed, there were options. As is indicated, there are plants that run on both the gas and the LCO. And so if you're going to, you just switch to the other and provide they provided the crude, the LCO, all right, the fuel to run it, except the fuel came in late. And once the fuel came in late, there will be a bit of a challenge before everything else settles.
I see.
Now they say they have enough fuel to last about a month. So yes,
So what happened over the weekend was temporary?
That's what they're saying. That's the explanation is that. And indeed, if the fuel is in, yes, we shouldn't have a problem. Okay. But you may have your fuel in, but these are machines. You may have your fuel in, everything may be running fine today, tomorrow. Maybe in the next few days, something else happens to the machine. It goes down. So you have your fuel sitting there, all right. But if your plant is also not working, there's a challenge. You're not going to have...
And I come to you, Mr. Jacumini, but let me quickly go back to Parliament to Dr. Kwabena Donkor. Dr. Donkor, I just want to find out from you from what I've just heard from Mr. Jacumini, who is saying that from the look of things, this might as well last a few weeks, maybe 1 or 2. Is this something you are inclined to agree with?
You see, we are expected to have fuel in our fuel, crude LCO or light crude oil in our fuel tanks at any time as backup. If for financial reasons we are unable to store crude, and then in a panic we quickly go and bring in crude, crude has to be treated.
Okay.
When you bring in crude, you don't just fire the plants that immediately with crude. You have to treat the plant. So what is responsible, or what has been responsible, has been our inability to buy crude timeously. And it boils down to finance. I believe today we don't have any reason other than finance to have the shutdowns that we are having, because as they have always claimed, we have more than adequate generating capacity. So the challenge has always been fuel. Indeed, even with the last GridCo issue, where the transmission line was said to be the reason for, GridCo has the ability to supply Accra from various parts of the country. And that is the sort of robust connected national transmission system GridCo had built. We should be candid with Ghanaians. Look, we have a problem. We have a temporary problem. But if we hide behind the technical, they force some of us to come out in ways that we ordinarily will not prefer.
But in fairness, Dr. Donko, in fairness to government, this is what they've tried to do. Today they held a press conference, and at the press conference they had people from the Ghana Gas, for example, who came to explain the technical procedures, what they have to go through, and the fact that Atuaba has to be shut down. So they've been explaining.
Look, there's absolutely no challenge about the technical. It's a planned, it wasn't an emergency shutdown. It's a planned shutdown.
Okay.
So if it's a planned shutdown, part of the planning should be the availability of alternate oil treated in tank.
Okay. Okay, so a lot of people have said that if this is happening, they feel like Dumsor is back some way, somehow. Even if we have to deal with it for just 2 weeks, what would you have done? Or what kind of advice would you have given government if you were still power minister?
Well, if it's a financial problem, we ought to have found the money to buy the crude in good time. In good time. Because we knew 3-4 weeks back that we were going to shut this pipeline at this time. In any case, by our standard operating procedures, we should have crude in tank, in situ.
So assuming...
We should not be rushing, panicking now to go and bring in crude.
Right, so Doc, that point has been made, but assuming without admitting that this is a purely financial matter, how would you advise government to move on? I mean, for Ghanaians not to be on the losing side of this whole situation?
Well, you see, the Ghanaian state has a responsibility to address the financial crisis of the power sector. The power sector is in a major financial crisis. We cannot shy away from that. We should have a national discussion, a national debate on the financial crisis of the power. That is what I expect government to lead. Concede that we have a financial crisis, and then we will have a discussion.
I see. Let me bring you in, Mr. Jakuhene. Is this a position you believe is progressive enough, looking at how we deal with this problem, so that at the end of the day, people are not sleeping in darkness, people's livelihoods are not being disrupted by power cuts? Is concession alone enough for us to address this problem?
Say that again.
Dr. Donko is saying that government will have to concede that, yes, we're having a financial issue, and then we can begin the conversation as to how to go forward from there. And I'm asking, is this a position you think is progressive enough, looking at the situation on our hands?
That concession came long ago when we were told that we are indebted to the tune of around 2 to 4 billion. So that has been said, and that problem has worsened since 2017. So yes, it's important that the challenges in the sector, the financial challenges, be addressed. But I think we need to link what's going on. I mean, I don't think we are in this situation because we don't have money to buy crude. We don't have money to buy HF. Some decisions will have to be made at the right time. Like you're saying, the food should be available to be used. But let me just quickly add that the TAPCO and TICO plants, they are both fine. They are not done. They are food. And they all have 3 units, and it's only one of the units that is for fuel. So those ones that take SU. But I guess we shouldn't be in this situation. And that's what everybody is talking. Going for, I expect that once Kappa moves to the western region and also this interties place, the fuel problem should be solved in terms of regular supply because of gas, excess gas now. But indebtedness will still be there. That's what I said. Ghana Gas is sitting at this press conference, actually behaving as if nobody is paying them. Okay. So
Ghana Gas itself is not being truthful to the problem, to the source of the problem, so that we can find a solution. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. What I'm saying essentially is that you are fighting for a customer who is not paying them. So, but the fact that Ghana Gas is also owned by the government, if I were the CEO of Ghana Gas, I won't sit at that press conference because they owe me. Okay. So just like the Nigerians were cutting us. If you were to be any private entity, gas wouldn't be coming from Ghana, and everybody is paying everything. So that's the problem we have now. But I'm saying that that's not the reason why the lights are not on, because I know there is a commitment to get fuel to make sure that we weren't in this situation. So yes, that problem has to be tackled. I believe that was the full essence of ESLA. Okay, so the ESLA should be seen to be very to make sure that we go out with that.
Yeah, and it's very important that you mentioned ESLA. We'll be wrapping up this conversation quickly, but the minority has also said that ESLA has not been managed properly by the government, which is why they've not been able to use that, for example, to pay off some of the debt.
But there's an ESLA report that comes to Parliament. Has that report gone to Parliament? And the minority telling us that they haven't seen that report? They should. We need specifics here. The minority should be able to compute how much you go into the ESLA and tell us whether it's been short-changed or not.
Okay.
Problems are just.
But I just wanted to agree with you on that point, so because we could easily get answers from Dr. Kwabena Donkor, who is in Parliament, you know, on this. Doctor, can you answer this question that has been raised by Mr. Jakumene?
I can partially answer that because I was not told this was about ESLA to get the actual figures. But one of the things we know is that a part of ESLA was used to pay pensions, and ESLA was never meant to be used to pay pensions.
If you say ESLA was used to pay pensions, I mean, how did that go?
Yes, a portion.
So
yes, the state borrowed from.
Please go ahead.
From ESLA to pay pension.
I see. Do you know how much?
And that is why the minority says ESLA has not been appropriately managed.
And do you know how much?
If you want us to give you the report, we can. And that the minority made a statement. The finance committee made a statement on ESLA, gave out the facts, and all I can say for now is that the management of ESLA has not been the best.
Okay, I'm going to go.
And Joy Online can investigate.
Very well, we will. I'll just do a round of your final comments on this as we move along. At the moment, for the everyday Ghanaian, They don't have power for their barbering shops. They don't have power for their saloons. They don't have power at home. The weather is heated, and people are not very excited. We're looking at the way forward. What your thoughts are on the way forward? Let me start this with you, Mr. Jakumine. The way forward is what, as far as you're concerned? You are quite optimistic, though. You believe that in a few, maybe 2 weeks, this should be over.
Well, I think we need to. There are no quick fixes. For example, if you don't have fuel, don't have fuel. Let's make sure that the fuel is there to run those plants that will run on the non-gas. Let's make sure. But let's also make sure that this thing doesn't happen again. So let's make sure that if we need to keep fuel, let's keep fuel ready to run, ready to be fast, and let's stop depending on Nigeria. We all that we can.
You also spoke earlier, before I brought in Dr. Donko, you were speaking about a schedule. That's one thing that Ghanaians are asking for. They're saying that, look, if there is a power situation, you need to let us know so we can plan our lives. Give us a schedule. But people have said that government is not inclined to give out that schedule, because then it will be an admittance that Dumsor is back.
But we can run away from the fact that people need to plan their lives. But I think for PDS to be able to also announce a schedule, they need to know what quantum of load needs to be shared. Okay, that information will have to come from grid. So is it that people they know for sure every day how much they are sharing? They might not know because maybe there are plans that are coming on and things like that. But whatever it is, we need to have some predictability of what's going on.
Mr. Jakumine, thank you so much for your time this afternoon and for your patience as well. Mr. Jakumine is the Executive Director of KITE there. You've heard his position. Dr. Donko, let me come to you for your final words on this as well. Going forward, in your time, Dumsor was quite intense, and I'm sure that you can identify with what's going on. Perhaps you can explain better. Going forward, what are your final thoughts?
Going forward, we still have a financial problem. In the past, we had a generation problem. Today, we don't have that generation problem. The challenge we have today is a financial problem. Look, the financial problem has been exacerbated only because Ghana Gas, the Atuaba plant is down. But Ghana Gas had concealed the financial problem in that we were not paying for the gas that we were consuming. VRA couldn't pay Ghana Gas, and Ghana Gas couldn't pay GMPC, ECG couldn't pay VRA, etc. But because we were using domestic gas, the problem was concealed. But the problem has been exposed. So as a nation, let's put NDC and NPP aside. Let's address the problem of the financial viability of the sector.
How do you think we can address the problem with the financial viability of the sector?
By being honest. If you take the salaries and wages aside, 70 to 80% of the expenditure of the power sector agencies are dollar denominated. Their payables are dollar denominated. Their receivables are CD denominated. So there is an automatic mismatch. In addition, we are not generating efficiencies either at the supply side or at the demand side. And the state, as the sole shareholder of the energy sector entities, is not also injecting equity capital. And that is what we need to do. So let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Let's put all the cards on the table, and let's have a conversation in the national interest.
In the national interest. I see that you link this issue to the depreciation of the cedi. Is that what you're trying to do there?
It is one of the facts. All I'm saying is that when your payables are dollar denominated and your receivables are CD denominated in the Ghanaian economy, you will struggle.
So do you agree to those Ghanaians, to Ghanaians who are saying that we need a power outage schedule? Do you think that's the way to go in this situation?
I believe this particular one will be a short-term one.
Okay.
Maximum 2 weeks. But it will reoccur and reoccur if we don't address the fundamental financial problem.
Doc, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Dr. Kwabena Donkor is a former power minister joining us all the way from Parliament there with very insightful thoughts as well. Israel is still here. He's head of our energy desk. Israel, let's put it all together in a very quick summary going forward.
Okay, so Dr. Kwabena Donkor made some fantastic points. He talks about the fact that we are generating or we are producing power.
Yeah.
And it's in the dollar index, and yet when we're paying for the power, we're paying in cedis.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all.
It doesn't make any.
It doesn't make any sense in the fact it doesn't make business sense.
But what would have happened is that if we're going to dollar index the bills that we pay, then it means that at any point in time they're increasing the amount of electricity they charge you.
Yeah, I mean, then it means that will be according to the fluctuation of the cedi against the dollar.
Exactly. But that's not really realistic.
It's not.
But then what it means is that you're supposed to charge a fair amount that will take care of fluctuations or depreciation in the currency and all that. That should all be taken care of.
Can we not do away with the dollar as they receive? What is it, the receivable? Is it payable?
You can't help it because your LCO, you're buying crude oil. You're not going to buy your crude oil in cedis.
In cedi, you buy in
the machines that you have to service. You're not going to do that. I mean, because the people who have to come in and all that, the parts that you have to buy and all that, it will have to be dollar index.
Okay.
Now let's look. There are a few things that I would want to point out. The issue of the debt overhang, which Dr. Kwabena Donkor mentioned, is true. It's something that has to be dealt with. We should be able to free most of these entities of these debts that hang over them because of the debts.
But when those entities are the same, backing government in concealing, like Dr. Kwabena Donkor is saying, concealing the financial problem, then we certainly are not close to the solution.
You might say, I mean, you have a point when you say that, but ultimately, I feel that unless we're able to get rid of the debt and allow these agencies to function as they should, independently of government, because every now and then, government has to come in. Right now, they needed crude oil. If they could buy the crude oil themselves, they wouldn't have to wait on government. They'll just get the crude oil as and when they require, and we wouldn't hear of this problem. But because government has to intervene and say, okay, let me supply you crude oil, then there's always going to be that problem because government is not able to do that as and when it's supposed to. The other issue is that you talk about the schedule.
It's still not clear to me whether or not
I probably
expecting that we need a schedule.
I actually think that at some point we should have a schedule. It's fair to tell people, some communities, that if we have a shortfall, we're going to knock out your power so that they can expect that we can go off any time, a particular area, okay, so that when there's no shortfall, we can spare them.
But Mr. Jakumene is saying that if to do that, you need GridCo to be able to produce how much power will be shed, has to be shed in which part of the country.
At any point in time, they should be able, I think where we're getting to, they should be able to say that at any point in time, let's make room for load shedding of maybe about 20 megawatts and decide which parts should be affected. So let's say Udoko takes the 20 megawatts. So at any point in time, if there's a need to shed the 20 megawatts, we're knocking out Udoko for this week.
So you believe in a schedule? You believe that a schedule?
They should be able to do that, so that if there's no shortfall, Udoko is free. So if you knock out Udoko, and Udoko knows that I'm supposed to be knocked out according to the schedule, and they are knocked out, they say, okay, we were told.
We were told. But what about those who say that this is a temporary, situation, and that we're looking, both Dr. Kwabena Donkor and Jakumene say that this will probably take like 2 weeks.
It will be good to send the load shedding round, so that at some point this week, or maybe the next 2 days, you say you're knocking off Udoko. Another time you say you're knocking off East Legon for 2 days. Should there be the need for any load shedding? Another time you say you're knocking off Kumasi. You should be able to do that so that people can at least plan. with it.
Yeah.
But until, like I say, until the agencies that are involved in the power sector are able to work independently
of government
and not have to rely on government. If government owes them, it's not paying, they say, oh, I'll pay your fuel for you. Unless that we get rid of that from the system, we can never say that we're out of doing so, because at any point in time, for instance, I was speaking with my sources at WAPCo, and they're saying today we shouldn't have any load shedding.
Okay.
Because they're saying the peak demand, when it gets, it should be about 2,000 megawatts. In the evening, it's going to go up to about 2,500 megawatts. And they're saying that that is all covered. But you're expecting power to be coming from the various plants. America, for instance, is supposed to produce 150 megawatts. If at any point in time, it's a machine.
There's a shortfall in America's production.
It's producing, but it's realizing that I'm not getting all 150. All I'm giving you is 130. That 20 is a shortfall, which has to be taken care of. And so somebody has to be knocked off the grid as a result. But if they know that, okay, as per our plan, should anybody go off, we're knocking out, as I say, Odoko, I hope the Odoko people will come after me. As I say, Odoko, so you knock out Odoko. Odoko expects that for the next 2 days, I may be knocked out.
Okay. So Israel is head of energy desk here. Israel believes that, yes, of course, we should have some sort of schedule. I mean, there should be some planning going in there to give people a schedule with which they can work so that you can plan for it. At least that's how we live through the Dumsor days, isn't it? But, well, Ishmael Jokuhene and Dr. Kwabena Donkor do not necessarily think that that's something that we need immediately, because they believe that this is a temporary problem.
My final point, and I think this is also important, is that people should begin to take decisions for themselves and see how they can do things independently of the grid.
Okay.
And I'm talking about solar.
Okay, so you can go into all of those alternatives, solar, inverters and all of those things. You know, do like Israel does in his home. You know, try not to rely so much on the grid, as he's saying. Israel, thank you very much for passing through. Israel Lai is head of our energy desk here at JoyNews, helping us with this conversation. Of course, people have said that we need a schedule because they believe that Dumsor is here already. But the experts are saying it looks like it's a temporary situation. Let's see how it goes. Even though they also accuse the Ghana Gas of concealing a problem they think is financial, saying it is more technical. We'll see how that goes.